this series of videos, we're looking at Renishaw's Productivity Plus Active Editor Pro. Active Editor Pro is designed for the programming of Renishaw's spindle probes and tool setters for machine tools. Its primary function is for setting parts and tools on the machine prior to the manufacturing process. It can also be used to control that manufacturing process while it's running. Normally, this software will be programmed by a machine tool programmer, as opposed to being down here on the machine with an operator. But in the case of these videos, it's quite good to be by the machine to help show what the software can do. So in previous videos, we've started to set up our program and set up coordinate systems and also our CAD models. So one final step we need to do before we can start programming is also set up our probe. So to do that, we need to open our probe database. Now in doing so here, we'll always have one probe from install that's set up as default called sample probe. So there's something that already exists. Obviously we need to have at least one probe in here to be able to program. We can see a little silhouette of the probe here, and we've got a few options. This is where we can edit that probe, we can create a new one, we can delete that. We can also actually import a probe database from another PC if we already have one. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on edit to bring up this existing probe. Now instantly what you'll see is one of the settings in here has a little cross next to it. So again, off the back of a fresh install, we set a probe in here with a tool change ID of -1. What this basically means is you can't forget about this, post a program and accidentally call the wrong tool. It forces you to actually set this in the first place. So we'll come back to that. First off, we'll start with our probe name. So in this case, I'm just going to call it FANUC 31 OMP 400, which is the probe we've got in this machine. Now obviously this probe database can have the probes, if there's more than one stored on the machine, it can actually contain all the probes in the machines you have in the factory. So this is our designation for now. Now in this particular case, I've got the tool change ID. So this is the ID number of where it sits in the carousel. So in this case, it's tool 9. So I'm going to now change this -1 to a 9. So the third setting we have here is tool offset. So in the case of FANUC, it might actually be that the tool change ID differs from the tool offset location where the length of the probe would be stored. Now, that depends on what's going on your machine. In this case, it is the same number, so I can set this as 9. In the case of other controls, so something like Heidenhain, for example, or even Siemens, you might have an index or an edge number that goes with that tool. So there are some instructions in the help of how to program that in this particular case. FANUC, fairly straightforward, we have 9 and 9. So here we can choose our probe module. So this really gives us our silhouette for the probe for when we're doing simulation. As I said, in this case, it's an OMP 400 on this machine. And then coming further down here, we can now choose our stylus. So this has a list of the more commonly used Renishaw styli that we have in our catalogue. In this case, I'm using a D6 L100, so that's a diameter 6mm ball, which is 100mm long. So you can choose, hopefully, the stylus you have from this list. Ultimately, if you don't have one that's in this list, you can scroll right to the top and click on Custom. So when I click Custom, some of these stylus parameters down here, they're no longer read-only, they've now become active, which means I can edit them. So I can actually choose some of the various dimensions of a custom styli or a special styli that I might have. As you can see here, each of these elements have a letter designated next to them, and that links up to a letter in this diagram here. So it's very easy to see which kind of dimension each of these settings relates to. So I'm going to change from custom back to my D6 L100. Below that, there's the option to put an extension in. So if you have an extension bar to extend your stylus, you can put that in there. And then also, finally, we have a switch here, which is going to be suppressing the probe switch on alarm. So what this is if the probe fails to switch on for any reason, then an alarm will be raised on the machine. That's just something that we can actually toggle on and off if we need to. I'm going to leave that on for now, and that's actually everything now set up for my probe. So hit OK. That's now updated the database and stored that in there. Clicking OK on that asks if I want to save that database. I've now done so. Okay, so that's the CAD model, the coordinate systems, and the probe database all set up now, so we're ready for programming. We'll start looking at that in the next video. In the meantime, if you'd like more information, please visit www.renishaw.com/productivity plus.